Let's start with this. So what I would like to do today with you guys here is delve a little bit further into the mental health care thing, and what's happening, current states, how we're being affected by this pandemic. Then move from that to what our take on what neuroscience as device wearables should be as a neurophysiologist, as a consumer, as a mental health worker. And then last but not least, we'll share a little bit about what we're doing at Neuroverse. Starting with the first one, so I think that, right now, global pandemic is a key notion and everybody's worrying about. And I think it's important to note that global, pandemics, happen on different ways. And mental illnesses, or the growth of mental illnesses, has been sort of a kind of a silent one, but it's been there. Alvarez touched upon this. So there's two things. One is increased longevity. We all want to live until we're 100, but the brain, like everything else in your body, is not exactly, set to do that. So there's degeneration with time. So we're seeing a spike on neurological and neuropsychiatric disorders related to cognitive decline and dementia, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc. On the other hand, we have a very stressful lifestyle. Professionally, we work around the clock. The professional demands are high, and they don't stop. It's great for us to be connected digitally, and now it's definitely useful during this period. However, this is also raised that there's no actually respite when you leave work, right? You're still supposed to be checking your emails and connect to things. So there's a high level of continuous pressure around the clock. And that has, also, impacted our mental health on aspects like, fragmented attention, increase of depression, lack of rest, etc. So on the right side of the screen, you have just a few examples of in the US and worldwide, the societal and financial impact of some of these things like anxiety disorders, Alzheimer's, migraine, depression, schizophrenia, etc. But I think important to note, and this is what I mean by a global pandemic, 60 million Americans and 450 million people worldwide today suffer from mental illnesses. The cost goes over 475 billion in the US and 2.5 trillion worldwide. And the projections is to just get worse. Over 1 trillion in the US alone, just in a few decades, if we don't change the trend, if we don't stop this trend. Now, what is happening right now with COVID-19 and, the whole aspect of social isolation in one hand, but also the way that is impacting society. People are concerned about their jobs, people are concerned about getting ill, are concerned about their loved ones getting sick. There's no cure, so there's incredible pressure on anxiety for what is going to be the current landscape, what we can expect to see next. And these are just a few examples that you can see right now. But on the top on the top table, you can see already suffering or fear of the future. 72% say it's already disrupted their lives. 74% think the worst is yet to come. So the anxiety, gets worse. 79% thinks that the pandemic will trigger recession. 82% thinks that the nation's healthcare system will be overrun. I mean, how scary is that? We've seen that in Europe. We're starting to see that in aspects of the US, like New York, when we feel that the entire healthcare system is not being able to give us the support that we're used to and that we expect from it. So all those things keep piling up. Obviously, losing their jobs is a big deal. It's affecting everywhere from older to young people. You can see the impact is also rising. If you see on the right, bars on March 11, 15, March 25 to 30th, you can see the increase of anxiety and wariness to this. Moreover, I was going over the other day on this McKinsey company, this McKinsey report, on returning to resilience and the impact that COVID-19 has had on mental health. And they did actually a pretty good job on it. And then I'm showing you one of their images. But what you can see is that the respondents feeling specifically anxious or depressed, so two specific mental illnesses conditions, is tremendous. With one or another or both, we also see that there's a change when we go from respondents for everyone versus the ones who have a job reduction right now or lost their jobs completely. So that even puts an extra amount of weight in all of those things. The distress level, as a high distress, 27, 34%, very, very high numbers. So COVID-19 is definitely having a worsening impact on what was already a mental illness crisis. Now, we are also seeing some positive trends coming out of this. So not all is dark. So you can see on the first two pie charts that 87% of American adults agree that having a mental health disorder is nothing to be ashamed of. So the stigma on mental health disorders, which was one of the big problems for us to how to deal with and implement solutions socially, at least is reducing, which is very good. On the right side, on the yellow pie, you can see that also 86% Americans believe they can get better. And this goes to part of what Alfred was mentioning in terms of, can we actually do something, or we're just born this way? No, we can do something. Plasticity can help. Different tools can help. And it's great that that awareness is starting to come up on consumers. Now, on the lower bar, you can see the percentage of healthcare providers right now during this crisis. And I would like you to focus on the first, more telehealth usage on the left, and the last on the right, add mental health resources. And you see that they're both there. So the use of telehealth and telemedicine is spiking, as one would expect, but also luckily, there is an increased concern on mental health resources. And if you look at some statistics, this is overall for the US, but if you pick, for instance, LA, you can actually see that there's a bigger pressure and concern from healthcare providers on adding mental health resources than even changing hours of shift to reduce infection or had other benefits. So it is a growing awareness of the importance of mental health care, and this is really important for us if we want to try to do something about this adjacent pandemic of the one that we're living in right now. Okay, so that paints you somewhat of a landscape of a scenario. Also, we're increasing telehealth, and we project that this trend is going to continue past COVID-19. So this is not something that is happening right now just during this pandemic and during the infectious part of the problem, but we know that a lot of these problems are going to continue and follow up after this. As mental health care professionals, we're expecting to see a growth on generalized anxiety disorders. We're expecting to see high numbers of PTSD, especially in frontline workers. A lot of them, we're seeing some of them yet. We're seeing some suicide rates among these professionals. But in many cases, this is going to actually raise once the pressure is a little more off, once they're not running on adrenaline all the time. A lot of these PTSD symptoms are going to pop up. So it's good to see that this increase of care and telehealth will continue. So, okay, what can we do about this as neuroscience, wearable developers, entrepreneurs, scientists, etc.? The first thing that I'd like to point out is consider this, what we like to call in our lab, the brain health challenge triangle. And here's what we mean. What do we want to do about the brain? What do we want to get better? One, we want to understand it. We want to create systems that promote the understanding of the brain. We know quite a bit in terms of pathologies, in terms of normal functioning, but most is on studies done in the lab. So it's limited amounts of people on artificial, controlled environments. So we need to promote the understanding of the brain in real world situations with systems that we can actually have people doing their normal lifestyle and have that integrated and monitor integrating into it so we can learn more about it. Secondly, once we learn more, we can improve. And Alvaro touched upon this point as well. In the great graphic that he produced years ago, you can actually improve cognitive performance at different stages of your life by doing different types of interventions, cognitive training, neurofeedback, mindfulness. So there's room for that once we understand the problem. And third, last but not least, on pathologies, we want to cure them. We want to manage them at least, and when possible, cure them. So when you're developing a neuroscience wearable, you're creating a company, you're developing your product, please do have this triangle in mind. Moreover, here's the other thing. Create solutions. Don't be a technology looking for a problem. There's great things, and it's exciting and tempting to do some really cool things with brain interfaces, but ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it actually going to mean anything? Is it going to be disruptive? Or is just one more toy, one more game? So when we think about it, there are clear needs. So right now, to target mental health pathologies in digital health, there's a need for home monitoring systems. There's a need for management of situations like Parkinson's. There's a need for evaluation of mental health situations like Alzheimer's, look at progression of the disease. There's a need for prediction. Migraine is an example, but other things like, when is it going to happen? Can I do something about it? Which is the last one, intervention. Can we actually use these systems to make something better at the chronic management level, at reducing the severity of the disease? So think about those things and think about, creating solutions for existing problems. And then promote specific and needed disruptive effects if you can. So look, if we can contribute to something on that triangle that improves understanding, that's great. If you can maybe improve understanding and improve mental fitness, well, that's great. You're touching two things of the triangle. If you could touch three and actually contribute for a cure, well, then you got a jackpot. It's fantastic, and thank you for doing this. But at least try to get things that have disruptive effects that can affect multiple aspects of it. So in order to be disruptive on a mental health landscape, We firmly believe, or at least I do and a lot of other colleagues, that you cannot just look at the pathologies. You cannot just wait until they happen. We cannot just track them and try to cure them. We actually need to look at the other side of the coin. We need to think about mental fitness and mental well-being as part of your everyday life. You need to think about ways to increase performance, as Alvaro is saying, and also creating resilience to these diseases. From our perspective, this is what at least three things that we feel that new neuroscience or current neuroscience wearables and other devices, even other wearables, should strive to do, right? One is being able to track mental and neural performance, both the behavior and the underlying neural brain modulations throughout all ages. It's great if you can do something that a 10-year-old can use, a teenager can use, a 45-year-old can use, but a 75-year-old can use as well. That is intuitive enough to be able to collect that, and also on the background that your analytics are solid enough to understand these data sets. Secondly, if you can keep ongoing engagement through personalized training and real-time neurofeedback. Here's what I mean by this. In mental health, there's very little of one size fits all. Of course, there's general aspects that are common to every brain, but if you actually want to be effective on monitoring, training, and solutions, it's very important that a part of your product, a part of your device, a part of your tool can be personalizable, can be actually tracking and adjusting to each person, because you also see, and what we know from neuroscience, there's a lot of individual variability, and you want to tackle that. Third, last but not least, let's try to create a new class. Let's try to create smart brain interfaces for everyday life. Things that can hopefully go beyond one application in a medical center or in a select group of people. Let's find ways to make this part of everyday wearables, like many others that have been out there, because I think that's absolutely critical to do this. If we do it, if we can respect some of these rules and integrate it in our solution, then we might be able to tackle what we like to call a dual problem and opportunity, which is getting mental fitness and mental health to go hand in hand. If you can, from the mental fitness perspective, help with things like performance and prevention, and from the mental pathologist perspective, detection of diseases and treatment of them, you can actually also cover all these roundabout aspects of, in one side on mental fitness, use mindfulness, increase mindfulness, emotional regulation, stamina, focus, memory, etc. Sleep, so important. In the other side, actually help, maybe at different levels, but create solutions that are able to then, in collaborations, in partnerships, help across a variety of disorders. Okay, so Alvaro showed you one way to, or one of the good ways to actually divide what is out there, and I think there's a great perspective. I like to bring another one as well, which is when you look at, classes of wearables, and again, if we try to make them part of your everyday use, like I mentioned, I see at least two big classes, and I feel that they're not competing with each other. They're actually complementary of each other. One of them is continuous monitoring systems, things like the Apple Watch or the Fitbit or the Oura Ring, right? They're what I would call non-brain wearables, meaning that they're not reading direct brains, they're looking at indirect correlations, can be movement, heart rate, respiratory rates, temperature, etc. Those are important because it gives us other aspects of the brain physiology that obviously is connected to the brain. And they tend to be less obtrusive and easy to use on your daily life, which allows for continuous monitoring. Having that said, I don't believe they're sufficient for the whole tool and for the whole introduction, because you do need to have tools that directly go into your brain readings, looking at the neural modulations and correct them onto behavior. And that's what we mean by this direct neural monitoring and interventional so-called brain wearables. They can look at neural modulations, how your brain are changing. They can look at brain markers, like we do as well. So there's something called ERPs, event-related potentials. It just means that your brain shows specific changes for things like attention, memory, language. So you can use those and track those and build on 50, 60, 70 years of research to understand them. How do they get together? And then, of course, you can use direct neurofeedback. So I have ways to understand what your brain is doing in a given moment and create tools to change your behavior accordingly. We really believe that this would tremendously increase brain plasticity and create an aspect for those improvements. So we really feel that those two things need to come together. And ourselves are talking with different partners on the continuous monitoring side of the space and understanding better ways to integrate both things so that you can have sort of the two types of devices talking to each other and working together for a holistic solution. Okay, so Neuroverse. Neuroverse. So our background, my background, I was a NIH researcher for several years at the National Institutes of Health on mental health. A lot of our colleagues that become on the origin of this company were as well. This was a company that spun off the Salk Institute for biological studies in San Diego, and also at University of California, San Diego. So the original IPs were created there, the original development was made there. So it's very, very important for us to create these solutions, these brain wearable solutions, but do not losing precision and reliability. We didn't aim to create a toy. We wanted to have a tool that actually will be reliable and precise, like the things that we use in the lab, that we can tap into brain markers, modulations, knowledge from neuroscience from the lab that we trust, and bring them into society. Now, to bring them into society, of course, you can have, a big cap. You see on the image on your left, you have, a scan machine, different aspects of tools that we use on neurocognitive neurophysiology, and the big EEG caps on your left, which, we like to call the EEG the portable solution. But when you look at the image on the lower left side of the screen, and you see this guy with this cap with a ton of wires connecting to a computer, connecting to an amplifier, and all those things, not exactly portable for your living room, right? It still means a technology team of people backing it up, analyzing it, collecting data, etc. So what we're trying to do is go from there to the image on the right, where you have an easy to use, for all age, small footprint system that can connect a different way. So this is what we developed. We called it the Brain Station. And it's really focused. We have the tagline of mind to brain, because that's really important for us. It is always keep that in mind. Keep in mind this correlation between mental performance and brain. Don't get disconnected from that. And so in this case, this device, it's part of a system, and the system is composed by the wearable device that can be used anywhere, by a series of apps that work with different ways for different use cases, and advanced neuroscience analytics that we developed throughout the years. So really, we're looking to measure, manage, and improve. So things can get complicated very rapidly, but we always try to keep in mind that at Neuroverse, we have one very specific goal, is to give you the tools that are precise and reliable, to measure your brain function in that way, and give you actionable solutions to improve your life. That's it. Sounds simple. It's not when we try to implement it, but we like to keep that in mind. So this is the device. It's small footprint. It goes straight in your forehead, as you can see on some of the images on the right. Wireless charging and wireless communication to your smartphones. Now, the device and reliability is a big part of it, but we keep talking about actionable uses. And if we want to do that, and if we really want serious holistic solutions that are going to affect different parts, but does it in a reliable manner, we do require integrative expertise. It can be a group of 2 or 3 guys that can be great at doing one thing that are going to be able to do it. So we're incredibly lucky from the beginning to have a very complete and phenomenal board of advisors and mentors that you can see. Professor Shushan, which is one of the bioengineering pioneers and experts, together with someone who's not here, Dr. Erwin Jacobs, were our 2 original mentors. When we didn't even have a company yet, we're still looking for the ideas and how to develop these ideas. And then, as you can see, from Jean-Pierre Changeux to Deepak Chopra, to experts on neuropsychiatry, sleep, migraines, to mental performance experts like Panacha Makaya or Mark Stevenson, that has done it for so many years for Special Operations Command, to entrepreneurial experts like Francois Ferrer-Magno-Marquet. So we're really trying to get an holistic integration on our advisory board. And mind you, that was very important for us, that these are people who've been working with us for years. It was not about putting some product out and then quickly trying to get a bunch of people to validate it. It was the idea of starting from the ground up and have these people giving you their input as you're developing this product. And we're extremely thankful to them, and it's been fantastic to do that with them. We're looking at a lot of different things, but I want to just touch upon quickly on 2 examples. One, we're going to start one on the medical side, and that's Brain Vitals M. It's an app that works with our device for migraine prediction. So in a nutshell, what we can do is we can predict a migraine attack about 24 hours before you have any symptoms. Now, this is really important, one, because of course it allows for personal replanning, and a lot of the migraine patients would tell that it's tremendously important for them, because when a migraine hits you, it's incredibly debilitating. There's nothing you can do about it. So if you at least know ahead and you can change someone to get your kids from school, change an important meeting, that's very important. But as or more importantly is also the aspect of therapeutic intervention. From what we know in terms of anti-inflammatory interventions for migraine, if we do it as early as possible in this process, you can actually increase efficacy. So in some cases, you might be able to abort the crisis altogether, and in others, at least reduce the severity and the duration of the crisis. So it's a very clear problem that he started with, and we started with the University of Lisbon, actually here in Portugal, and other partners thinking about this is a clear problem, can we provide a solution for it? And we're able to do that, to develop that solution. We published on cephalology, the top clinical headache journal last year. We presented at multiple meetings, and we are now completed the FDA pre-submission phase. We got approved to do one fast track pivotal trial to get this to markets. We're very excited to refine the product, validate it, and put it out there. So this is one example on the medical side of things, clear problem that we could provide a solution for. Here's another one on the well-being part of things. With sleep, we really believe that sleep is incredibly important, from brain restoration, for all of the aspects of mental health. We also believe that sleep goes beyond sleeping. It's not just when you turn off the lights and go to bed. That's not what is going to determine the quality of your sleep. A lot of the things that we've done during the day will determine that. Your level of anxiety, how stressful you are, could you manage that? So there's multiple aspects that go into it. So having options like mindfulness and other things will be very important to try to correlate this thing and to tackle it in a holistic fashion. So on the left, you can see the neuroverse hypnogram, and you can see a standard sleep clinic hypnogram. Again, we're making the same thing. We wanted to keep that reliability, that quality, but being able to do it in a comfortable daily life situation that you can have it at home and not stuck in a sleep clinic in an artificial environment. You can only do it once. Wanted to enable this to be a rapid thing. On the right, you can see we have fantastic partners from Deepak Chopra to Louis Schwartzberg from Moving Art, creating visual mindfulness tools, creating auditory feedback meditation tools, specifically created and designed to improve your sleep or improve your energy and attention focus in the morning. So those are two examples. We've been doing a lot of different things. There's, again, just a few more. We'll be partnering with global leaders across sectors. And again, that is absolutely critical from my standpoint. Having these partnerships is what give you a possibility to be effective, to learn how to build a product and then how to deploy it. So again, from the Chopra Foundation to working with the military, with Walter Reed Army Institute for Research on sleep development, Tavistock, Lake Nona on integration this in real life, society and developments, Brain Health Initiative from Harvard University for neurocognitive profile, and something they're now developing in Florida, all the way to, when you look at the right side, the Laureate Institute for Brain Research with Justin Feinstein, who leads this float lab there. We've been doing really interesting work looking at anxiety correlations and anxiety control and interventions using float and other interventions. The migraine that I talked about at the University of Lisbon, we're about to submit a paper on schizophrenia, looking at different changes of brain modulations with Greg Light. We're actually starting another one on pain management. So a host of things across this sort of holistic path, but basically using one system, one disruptive system that can go across verticals. And then if you do that and choose your tools to push specific solutions, then it can really start growing your brain interface ecosystem from educators, scientists, executives, military, sports, etc. And that's what we try to do. Keep in mind two large things. In one side, mental performance, which you can optimize via mindfulness and neurocognitive training programs. And in the other side, mental health, that we can really promote and get better through preventive and also, hopefully, in many cases, therapeutic programs. That's about it. Thank you, the Innovation Foundation on Bankinter. It's been phenomenal to work with them in this past few years, from the Forum Trends Forum to Future Trends Forum to doing this now. And to Alvaro, it's always great to do this with you. And thank you guys for listening.